Welcome to Fireside Gaming. I'm Billum, and recently I announced that I will be starting retrospectives of the .hack games on this channel. I've got a lot of love for this series as I started it back when it was new in the early 2000s. But I realized that not everyone got into the series at the same time that I did, and maybe I should give them a quick primer of what to expect. See, .hack isn't just a set of games. Instead, it's a
multimedia franchise
that spreads across 3 loose generations of light novels, manga, anime, movies, and video games. And if you aren't familiar with it, it can be hard to figure out where exactly to start. The generations are broken into 2 or 3 segments depending on who you ask, but the first is called Project.hack, and that's what we're starting with. The quick version is that there are 2 easy entry points into the .hack series that I would recommend. The first is .hack Sign. This was the first piece of .hack media that we ever got, and as you might guess, that makes it a great way to get into the series. It also takes place chronologically before the quartet of .hack Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine games, which we will refer to as IMOQ for short. This means that watching Sign first will result in players catching some neat winks and nods back to it while playing the games, as well as gaining some extra context around the events taking place in them. Just make sure to skip the episode titled Unison, as it takes place after the IMOQ games. On the flip side of that, .hack IMOQ was the initial project that all of the other content was created around. With that in mind, you can easily start the series with .hack Infection and play through each of the games in order. You will miss a few references and cameos back to .hack Sign, but the overall story doesn't rely on having watched Sign before the games. Now we have to talk about a second anime that is important to the .hack series, Liminality. This is an anime OVA series that came bundled with the .hack IMOQ games. Each game got 1 episode, and players are best off watching each of these episodes after beating the game they came with. Now let's get into the long version of how to get into and enjoy the .hack series. Specifically, we're going to focus on the media that is mainly part of Project.hack. If you are the type of person that likes to experience a media series in its chronological order over production order, then you have a lot of homework to do before ever stepping foot into the world of the IMOQ games. Our first stop is .hack Epitaph of Twilight Volumes 1 and 2. This is a duo of light novels that take place before anything else in the series. They've also never been released in English, though a fan translation does exist. After that, it's another light novel with the first volume of AI Buster. This one did get an official US release that you can track down online if you're interested. There's a second volume of it as well, but you don't have to read that until after beating the IMOQ games. Now that you've read through 3 light novels, you can sit back and enjoy the .hack Sign anime, and trust me, it's a great one. There's 26 episodes total and 3 OVAs tacked on at the end. To be extra clear, do not watch the .hack Sign Unison episode before beating IMOQ. It's jam-packed with spoilers. You'll probably want to avoid .hack Gift as well if you happen to come across it, just to be safe. Now there's only 1 more light novel to read before we can start IMOQ. .hack Zero takes place between the events of .hack Sign and .hack Infection. Yet again, this is another one that didn't get an official release in the US, but there are fan translations available online. And just to throw this out there to be extra careful on covering my bases, there's also the .hack Another Birth light novels. There are 4 of these, with each of them corresponding to one of the IMOQ games. The difference is that they're told from the perspective of Black Rose, one of the main characters in the games. These did get a US release, and they can be found pretty easily online, though I wouldn't read them until after you've beaten each of the games that they correspond to. Now, that probably seems like a lot of info to take in, so let me ease some of those concerns. You in no way, shape, or form need to read or watch any of the light novels or anime before playing IMOQ. For example, I didn't read any of the light novels back in the day. They were a lot to track down on my allowance, and instead I had to run off of what other people were saying about them in forums back in the 2000s to get an idea of their content. I'll even go so far as to say that my personal recommendation is to completely skip over the light novels for now. Start with .hack Sign and watch the first 26 episodes. You can always watch those extra episodes later just to be careful. And after that, jump into IMOQ and watch the Liminality episodes after beating each game. That is all you need to enjoy the first generation, or maybe I should call it phase, of .hack. If you find yourself really digging the series after that, Then you can go back and get into all of the side content. I would even go so far as to argue it's more interesting that way, as it feels like uncovering more lore to a series you already love or at least are familiar with. And to help with that, here is a small portion of the Excel document that I use to keep track of all of the .hack media. I might be missing an entry here or there, but this covers the majority of what's in Phase 1 of .hack and what is canon as well, because that's a whole different conversation we could have. But to be clear, you do not have to do any of that to check out the second phase of .hack, which includes the GU games and their related media. Heck, if you want, you can even start with those games instead of sign an IMOQ. It's not my personal recommendation, but they are more readily available thanks to a modern re-release, which I very much hope IMOQ gets one of these days. Now, how do you go about checking all of this out? As I already said, the IMOQ games don't have a modern release, and they can get dang pricey, yes. I'll let you figure out how to play them yourself. As for the .hack Sign anime, it's still readily available in a complete DVD set. I'm rocking one of the old Anime Legends releases that I found at a con last year, but before that I actually had a bootleg version of it that Kid Me didn't realize was fake. Outside of those options, there's an archive on the internet that is home to all of the .hack animes, just in case cache is a little tight right now. For everything else, it's a mix of tracking down out-of-production Tokyo Pop releases or finding fan translations online. For the latter, you can check out .hackers.net, .hack Translate, and .hack Network to find links to most of that content. I'll also go ahead and put links to each of these in the video description. And there is your complete guide and recommendations for getting into the .hack series. Next time we meet, it will be for my retrospective of .hack Infection on the PS2. Until then, take it easy.